which is the Data Champion of the Year Awards. So it is my absolute pleasure to be able to introduce this session today. It's an honor that celebrates the exceptional leadership in advancing trust, collaboration, and the effective use of data to improve public outcomes. We're fortunate to have David Ramsay here with us to present this year's award. David is a national leader in advancing data-driven policy and cross-sector collaboration. Yes, I'm getting to that one in just a second. Yes, and our board member. I'll say it now so that Ahu is happy. Yes, and also one of our distinguished board members. He'll be recognizing 2 outstanding leaders from the state of New Jersey for our Data Champion of 2026. Before we dive into that, though, I know there's some other New Jerseyans, is that right, here? So if you are from New Jersey, whether now or before, or you want to be, can you stand up? Yes. Fellow New Jerseyans, let's give them a round of applause. Thank you. Woo. And as you notice, Ahu is also standing, who is also hailing from New Jersey, so home state. So a lot of reason to celebrate New Jersey, but definitely for this award and this honor this year. Just to give you a quick snapshot of who else is up here, we do have Stephanie Walsh, who serves as Assistant Director at the John J. Heldrich Center for Workforce Development at Rutgers University. Woo! And she's led efforts to strengthen the use of data in workforce and education systems and foster collaboration across agencies and institutions. Also, we have Lesley Hirsch here. Assistant Commissioner for Research and Information at the New Jersey Department of Labor and Workforce Development, where she oversees the research functions that have been instrumental in advancing data integration and evidence-based policymaking. Oh, yes. And correct me if I got any of that wrong.
Sounds good.
Okay, good. I had to read my notes, so I didn't fumble any of that, so hopefully I did well. Together, they're going to be talking about how they're driving forward data-driven decision-making in New Jersey, and they're both really wonderful advocates for data needs of their communities and also that measurable impact that it has with their communities. So I will let them expand on that much further than that quick introduction. I do want to mention, following the awards presentation, you will hear their reflections on what it truly takes to lead with evidence, how trust is built, partnerships are sustained, and data is translated into meaningful insights. So with that, please join me and welcome David Ramsay to present the awards.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon,
Let's try that again.
David.
When I speak, you speak back. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you. Welcome to the Data Champion of the Year Plenary, also known as the New Jersey Plenary. So again, my name is David Ramsay. I'm Director of Workforce Innovation Partnerships at the New Jersey Economic Development Authority, and also a proud member of the Coleridge Board of Directors. So on behalf of Coleridge, thank you again for attending the convening and having this meaningful engagement with us. I always seem to get the sessions right before lunch or right before the evening reception, which is really a lot of pressure, but we saved a great presentation for the close of the day with 2 practitioners on the front lines of state work. And if you know anyone who works in a state agency, you know we are serious about our states. Ahu has been up here giving us direction, and she told me earlier to talk about Coleridge, and I always do what my CEO tells me to do. But in all seriousness, I first became involved with Coleridge as a participant in an applied data analytics class years ago when I was with the New Jersey Department of Labor, and have been connected ever since. So my message to you is really simple. Engage with us. Engage with us. Because collaboration is at the heart of what we do, and our partnership with you makes this all possible. So I have one simple request of you throughout tonight and tomorrow. When you meet someone that you haven't met before throughout your time here, ask them, how are you associated with Coleridge, and what brought you to the convening? There will be a quiz after. So how are you associated with Coleridge and what brought you to the convening? Those questions can connect us in a variety of ways. Shared experience, new ideas, and new resources, to name a few. Convenings are great, but we all must continue the work after we all go back home to make those connections that can all help us move this important data work forward. We have Coleridge staff here, board members, advisors, partners, all present and would love to talk to you about the work that we continue to do. So connect, engage and connect. So while it's important to face and find solutions to our common challenges, which is what our collective work is all about, it is equally important to acknowledge each other, our contributions to the public good, and celebrate the wins. With that in mind is my distinct honor and pleasure to present the Data Champion of the Year Awards, which each year honors exceptional leadership in advancing trust, collaboration, and the effective use of data to improve public outcomes. This year's recipients are Lesley Hirsch and Stephanie Walsh from the great state of New Jersey, who I happen to know quite well and have had the pleasure to work with over the last few years. I won't go into their impressive bios, as you'll hear from them shortly. Lesley was my boss, and I say that endearingly, at NJDOL for several years. We worked together on data lakes, ETPL, LMI, WIOA, all the acronyms, and a variety of other things, and we had our best, and continue to have our best working sessions over pizza. So a hint for you, if you want to do something with someone from New Jersey, offer them pizza. It's a good incentive. Stephanie has been a mainstay at the Heldrich Center for Workforce Development at Rutgers University and a critical partner in our state's research landscape for a number of years. I think we first met around 2018, working on what was once New Jersey's education to earnings data system, which is something else now that I'm sure she'll talk about. I don't know if you remember, but we also took an LMI Institute training together a few years ago, which I know was a while back because now you're a PhD. So, and you weren't before. So, in other words, so both of our awardees lead critical cross-agency collaborations in New Jersey and beyond, and are steadfast advocates for the data for good community. So I'm going to ask our CEO to come up. Come on up. And she's also from New Jersey, as you well know. So without further ado, I present to you our 2026 Data Champion awardees, Lesley Hirsch and Stephanie Walsh.
Are you getting up to speak? Are you going to get up to speak?
So now we'll hear from our awardees, Lesley Hirsch and Stephanie Walsh.
Okay. I guess I'll get up. Hey, everybody. Thanks. Hey. Yeah. Okay. So obviously, it's an honor to accept this award on behalf of New Jersey, and I want to start by thanking several groups of people. This is like the Academy Awards, right? But several groups of people were responsible for making us data champions. So first and foremost, my colleagues on the Executive Leadership Council, from labor, from education, from higher education, from the Higher Education Student Assistance Authority, because there's no way to shorten that. That's the state financial aid agency, who have championed data governance and created the institutional conditions for this work to thrive. So none of this happens without leaders who believe that data matters. Second, our respective teams in the state agencies, the leadership, Cheryl, who I have to point out to, right? The analysts and the subject matter experts. They translate ambitions into results. And third, I can't say this emphatically enough, but you're all going to see just how fantastic she is. Our partners at the John J. Heldrich Center for Workforce Development at Rutgers, Stephanie Walsh and her team, and before her, the incomparable Sean Simone, Where are you, Sean? Okay. The other person who got up and ranted at the panel this morning, right? They've been the key to our achievement. So fundamentally, our story is one of partnership. Stephanie, you and your team. So finally, I want to thank all of you, the colleagues in other states and your non-state partners. You inspire us, you challenge us, and I will be perfectly honest with you, we borrow from you shamelessly whenever we can. So the secret sauce in New Jersey's recipe is partnership. But I've got to say now, New Jersey has been in this game for a long time. Our longitudinal wage record file dates back to the 1990s, before people even had things called data sharing agreements in New Jersey. So that's a story that I can tell you all someday over cocktails. The development of our longitudinal data system began in the 2010s. Stephanie and I are standing on quite a few shoulders, and people who plowed fields long before either one of us came along, and we had a lot of growing up to do ourselves, making investments over the years that set the foundation for this data championship status that we have now. But to take advantage of the platform and collaborative opportunities that Coleridge offers, it wasn't enough to simply have a lot of data. In addition to the university-state partnership, we needed three things. First, governance in the form of the Committed Executive Leadership Council and Data Stewardship Group. Second, infrastructure, which required investments in our own secure data platform and leveraging Coleridge to partner with other states and external researchers. And third, opportunity, projects and initiatives made possible by Coleridge, often in partnership with the Multi-State Data Collaborative. So we could get applause for the Multi-State Data Collaborative. I'm going to call it the MSDC because it's too much to say all of that. So what were these opportunities? First and foremost, they were opportunities to network with you in this room. I'm going to have to follow the arrows around my written comments here and see if I can keep up with my own writing. Let's see. I can't keep up with my own writing. So my work chairing the WIAC, the Workforce Information and Advisory Council, and working with NASWA to help stand up the Multi-State Data Collaborative in its early years, gave me a broad sense of what states across the country are building. But through Coleridge and the MSDC partnership that we've had the chance to share ideas, help one another, think through analytical challenges, and work together on meaningful projects closely. Stephanie's going to speak a lot more concretely about what those projects were and what those collaborations were like in just a moment. So we're genuinely inspired by what you're doing in the other states and by ideas and accomplishments of the national intermediary organizations that are in this room today that support this network. I've already mentioned that we also like to steal from you, so I won't repeat that yet again. With a strong foundation and real opportunities to collaborate, we've begun to see multiplier effects, particularly in two areas, funding and talent. So with respect to funding, my NJDOL team has heard me often talk about this model, referring it to the virtuous cycle, and they've heard me to the point of nausea for many of them. You create something valuable, it attracts partners who want more. That gets you to the table for more partners and more funding opportunities, which lets you build the next thing, and so on and so on. The cycle builds on itself. So with respect to talent, the advanced data analytics courses hosted by and offered by Coleridge, and again, often in partnership with the MSDC. I didn't realize this was actually right in my forehead. Sorry about that. Okay. And often in partnership with the MSDC, has created a real multiplier effect in our supply of analytical talent in New Jersey. There is so much work to be done to answer even the basic policy questions in our world, let alone the knottier socioeconomic challenges of our time. To do that, we need to make it easier to get the data, safely of course, but we also need people with the skills to analyze it and to turn it into meaningful insights. On that note, I'm very proud to say that New Jersey has sent upwards of 36 analysts and subject matter experts to advanced data analytics courses. Thank you very much for that. That kind of investment in human capital compounds over time and has already allowed our work to accelerate and expand over the past several years. So I'll close with a reflection on what I think is the main challenge ahead of us, for all of us in this room. Now we must firmly and broadly establish our relevance to practitioners and policymakers. That means not only producing relevant analytical products, but engaging them in shaping the questions that we ask, then supporting them to identify concrete policy and program actions that improve the lives of the residents that we serve. Analytics alone will not make a difference in people's lives. We all know that. As we heard in Raed Ghani's keynote this morning, this is why I can't follow my own notes because I've been writing as we go, but Raed Ghani's really impressive keynote this morning really pounded this home for me. Those of us who develop and run models must communicate with practitioners and policymakers. We must help them to choose the right metrics, to draw implications that will in turn help design effective interventions. It is necessarily an iterative process, and apropos of the theme of this conference, it requires us to extend our data and ourselves beyond our borders and our boundaries and engage in constructive dialogue. That's how we're going to bring it home. And here I might add one more piece, and it's sort of a shaking my finger at all of us, including myself, I will say, let's start evaluating our efforts to make sure that what we're doing works. So as advocates for evidence-based policymaking, let's practice what we preach. So in sum, I believe New Jersey and many of our peer states have firmly established Coleridge and the MSDC as a proof of concept. The model that we've built together is working. Let's broaden and deepen our impact and bring it home. Thank you.
Thank you for those remarks, Lesley. Now we'll have our other Data Champion awardee, Stephanie Walsh.
Thank you. Do I just click this? Great, it's easy. There's only one button.
That's my slide. That's what I was saying.
Yes. All right, well, thank you, everybody. Lesley already did a lot of the thank yous, so I don't have to do too many more, but I do want to reiterate just how important the work that everybody who has come before us and who shares in this work with us has been to the success of the system. Both the former staff, those who really built the foundation of what we're doing, and all of the partners that we've had along the way. And we're really fortunate in New Jersey to be surrounded by data champions who are consistently sending this message about how important this data system is and evidence-based policymaking is. So I just want to take a quick step back, and it's great to be in this room among friends to not have to share too much about what's an SLDS, because we all are very familiar with that and think about it every day. But in New Jersey, our P20W system is the New Jersey statewide data system. And this combines data from K-12, higher ed, financial aid, and Department of Labor and Workforce Development. One thing that's kind of unique about New Jersey is that it's administered by the Rutgers University Heldrich Center. Very much still owned and operated by the state agency partners, though. So I have a lot to say about this slide that doesn't have too much to do with the timeline, but I did want to shout out the success of us having legislation passed just a couple months ago that authorizes the statewide data system. So that was a huge milestone for us that we've seen happen in other states, so we really wanted to build into the sustainability of our system. And speaking to borrowing from other states, the legislation we drafted was just borrowed from a state who had this passed. So there is a lot of building on the work of everyone else. I also wanted to share this slide to show just how long these efforts take. It really is a slow-moving process. Intentionally so in many ways, but oftentimes the work doesn't feel like you're a data champion. It feels like you're really stressed that you have to ask your procurement office for like the 10th time what the status of a PO is, or why you haven't gotten Tableau updated with your OIT and you just can't post a report that's been waiting 6 months to be posted, which is a situation we're in right now. It doesn't feel like, oh, I'm championing this data, I'm doing this work every day. You're really in the nitty-gritty of that, and I think that we can all relate to pushing this work forward is slow moving, and again, it doesn't always involve putting dashboards together in a week and getting to show these flashy products. It's relationship building, building the trust that needs to happen, building in our data sharing agreements and MOUs, working a lot with our legal team and infrastructure. So there's a lot that goes into the development of the data system that makes it take this much time. Once we had that foundation in place, we really have been able to move much more quickly. So I think, the work that we did to get to this point over the last 15 years or so has gotten us to a place where we are kind of able to think more innovatively, more recently put out more products, expand what we're doing, expand our data partnerships. So it's been really exciting to be in that place in the last few years where we can start to think, okay, we have a really solid foundation now. What are we going to do with it? What else can we do? So in those last few years where we've really been able to use the data and expand what the data system can do, we've answered a lot of those kinds of questions around education to workforce pathways, return on investment of education, efficacy of certain programs, equity and access and outcomes, and some labor market dynamics, sector analyses that we've been able to produce and put on our websites and share out with the stakeholders involved. So we have been able to answer a lot of those kinds of questions, and again, starting to build even further on that foundation of, okay, now that we have these descriptive reports, we understand the dynamics of these programs, the descriptive outcomes, what can we do to really better inform policy and improve the rigor of the studies we're doing? So a few things I wanted to talk about are not new to most of you. We've been talking about them all day. But they're things that we kind of forget in the work that we're doing because we get so bogged down in the day-to-day of linking the data and working on the data sharing agreements or whatever it might be, that we forget that we have these other kind of tools and supports in place that can help us. So I think of these kind of three things as things that have helped accelerate the work that we do that I often have to remind myself, okay, we can go back to talk to other states, or we're need to go back and prioritize capacity because that's really what's been helping us expand and build on the infrastructure. So the first is that we have to build that capacity. Systems only work when there's people who know how to use them. So that goes back to the applied data analytics training courses, has really, really expanded not just the number of people in our state and the state agency partners who know how to use the data and understand what working with linked administrative data looks like, but also that they know what kind of questions they can ask with the data. So they know then when they come to us, what are those kinds of questions that are realistic, and what does it take to actually answer those questions? Because that's another barrier we often face of, I need to know this and I want to know it tomorrow, and it's not often realistic, either with the data we have or with the turnaround time that's expected. So just building that capacity and awareness around the data system has been huge. In that one, I also wanted to say, we've been kind of on both ends of the applied data analytics trainings now, as some of you heard in a previous session today. The first was on sending people to the training. More recently, we've actually used New Jersey's data in several of the ADA trainings, which has helped us in a lot of ways, both in what are the kinds of questions that people ask of our data that we probably need to include in documentation and guidance around the data, what are some quirks of the data that they're asking about that we need to resolve, and also asking these really interesting research questions that we might not have looked at before. So also getting those results out of the data has been really exciting for us as well. Related to that is expanding your research community. So expanding who is using the data expands what you're able to learn from the data. So that was true, again, of us providing the data for the applied data analytics trainings. We have all these amazing researchers, many who you've heard from in a couple sessions ago, who are using that data to address questions around the education to workforce pipeline and career and technical education. That's been so useful to us to see what those questions are and just start to see some of the results of that data now. We've also recently expanded our external access program. So just last year, we had a public application process where anybody could submit an application to use de-identified secure data, and we leveraged the ADRF to be able to do that. So that really helped accelerate the timeline and the capacity of what we were able to do with offering external access to the NJSDS data. We have also partnered with the Multi-State Data Collaborative with the request for information process, so getting other researchers, again, building on work that has been done previously, replicating prior work, and also getting other researchers with content area expertise, methodological expertise that we just don't necessarily have the capacity or expertise to do in the state. So it's really helped us expand, again, what we're able to do with this great system that we've built. The last point I wanted to make was that states learn faster together. So I'm always reminded of that when we're at this convening and throughout the year as various multi-state collaborative meetings come up. We often kind of go back and then hunker down and do the work on our own within our own states. And then we remember, oh yeah, there are many other states who are asking these same questions. Maybe I could just ask them what they're doing instead of spinning our wheels. And oftentimes there are states who are further along than you, and you get to borrow what they've done and don't have to start from scratch. So it really does help, save you time, but also improve the replicability and use of what you're able to produce. One great example of this is work that we did in a multi-state work group, the Unemployment to Reemployment Portal report replicating what Illinois has done. So several states were involved in a shared grant task a few years ago, and we were able to work within the ADRF using Illinois' data and the code that they used to develop that report, and add to that additional subgroup analyses, additional ways that we would look at that data, build the report that they had already done, and then take that code back to our own states and test it within our own state systems to say, oh, this didn't really work, this element isn't the same in my state, and then come back together to the ADRF Illinois data and the code and really build that out to make sure it's replicable and scalable to other states. So doing that, built a sustainable report that we could now use and we are taking back to our own state and modifying for our needs. But it really helped us to get that insight and build on what Illinois had already done and get the insight from all the other state partners involved as well. We've been involved in a few other multi-state projects, so building work that has been done. You all heard we were part of the Midwest Data Collaborative originally.
Yes.
So we are happy to kind of ride the coattails of the other states who have done a lot of this great work before us. Angie in Kentucky has just been a phenomenal leader in building a replicable model for the multi-state post-secondary report. So we've built on that work that she led, and that really helped us to answer a critical policy question in New Jersey. We have our own within-state higher ed outcomes dashboard where we can see if someone graduated in New Jersey and they work in New Jersey, where are they going, how much are they earning. We don't know anything about the students who move out of the state and end up working elsewhere. But now we know what happens to folks if they move to Virginia or Ohio or Tennessee or Kentucky or Rhode Island. So not necessarily everywhere that we'd expect folks to move within New Jersey, but again, building this great foundation that is really well documented and replicable for other states, and that exists now. So we can kind of easily bring in other states as they're interested in joining, and it expands what we're all able to know about folks who graduate in our state and the efficacy of those programs and the curriculum. We've also done the multi-state teacher workforce report with Rhode Island. So we were looking at a kind of critical policy question for many states of the public teacher workforce. What are the trends in that workforce and the exits? And do they look similar across states? And do we see anybody moving between the states? And of course, in this pilot, we did not. So we didn't get to put in that component, but again, we have this great foundation of the infrastructure that we've built to be able to replicate that for other states who are interested in partnering. So I've heard a lot about kind of what are these things that make state data systems work throughout the day. This is really repeating a lot of those great points that we've already heard, but these aren't just infrastructure projects. While the infrastructure is very important, they're really relationship building, research projects, governance. All of that is just as important as having the infrastructure in place as well. We can't just build, a technical infrastructure of linked data and that's it. And we often have this debate with our own OIT who says, oh my God, this project is still going on. I thought that was supposed to end so many years ago. We're like, no, it's a forever project. We're just always going to be doing this. Because, with technical projects, you think short term, I built it and now it's done. And this work is ongoing. We're constantly improving and changing and adjusting and hopefully bringing in new data sources and rethinking how we're structuring the system. So, this is kind of a long-term investment, and as others said, it's okay that it's slow moving because we're building something that we hope will last and a really strong, sustainable foundation for something that we would like to see continue grow. I think I've already spoke about most of this, but I think, what's next for us is expanding and strengthening those multi-state partnerships. So we're excited to continue to hear from all of you and learn what you all are doing. Expanding those research partnerships, so building these relationships with trusted researchers who can come in and use our data and expand what we're able to learn from the system. Strengthening the analytical capacity, so continuing to offer these applied data analytics trainings to our state partners and others in the state to really use the data, and again, expanding that actual use of the data, getting their hands in the data after they've completed the training, and then continuing to tailor our research agenda. So that's a big push for us this year of really hearing from other stakeholders throughout the state of what they want to see us doing with the data to continue to move this work forward. So I think that is all I have now.
Please join me again in congratulating our Data Champion of the Year awardees. Do we have time for questions, or what are we doing next, Allison? Yes? If there are, we do have time for a few questions for our Champions of the Year, if there are any from the audience. I have one. So Stephanie alluded to it a little bit in her presentation, but in regards to our SDS or the multi-state collaboratives, like, what's on your wish list to take this to the next level? Like, if pie in the sky, if you could choose, hey, I want this thing or these things, what is it?
You want to go first? You probably are.
So, yeah, I mentioned kind of expanding the agencies who provide data, just understanding more about the people that programs that we're evaluating, the people who are participating in those. We know that, no one person is defined by just their educational and workforce experiences. There's a lot of other things that factor into that participation and performance. So really expanding kind of the sectors that are involved in our data system. And when we think about multi-state partnerships, obviously getting those states who border New Jersey partnering with us would be really helpful to better understand that movement at a state.
I was going to say, do you want to shout out those states specifically? They
New
might
York
be
and
here
Pennsylvania. I'm not going to be
those
shy. All right, come on, New York. Let's go. All right. All right. They know. They're coming. They're coming. I think for me, my biggest dream is to be able to do something like Raid spoke about this morning, and it was the reason why I really wanted to be part of the Coleridge, at the time, initiative, and part of MSDC. I want to say maybe 10 years ago, I saw a presentation that Julia Lane had given, and I've spoken about in previous Coleridge meetings, about the longitudinal data system in New Zealand. And she had set it up such that she had preschool data, foster care data, elementary education data, juvenile justice data, and a number of other data sources, and was able to pinpoint the risk factors that would actually predict people getting involved in the criminal justice system as adults, and be able to actually intervene and focus government resources to intervening, and then evaluate those efforts and find that they were actually effective at saving the state a lot of money, quite honestly, saving New Zealand quite a lot of money, but also really affecting the lives of so many hundreds of thousands of people. That's what I want us to do, and I think the way we're going to be able to do it is by bringing in corrections, human services, health, data, and I really want to see that happen.
Thank you for that. Any other questions? I thought I saw a hand, no? There's a hand somewhere. Go, please.
Hi, I'm Katie. I'm from the University of Chicago, and I just want to say that what you've done is really awesome. It seems like a well-deserved award. My colleague will be presenting tomorrow about, we just joined City of Chicago K-12 data with city colleges, community colleges, and wage data. So I'm curious, also just thinking about the wish list of agencies you just mentioned, if you all are limited by the social security number, or are you able to do more fuzzy matching to match people across? Because I doubt all of those agencies collect SSN, so just curious how you address that.
No, this is all you. This is all you.
So our K-12 doesn't have SSN. We have a student ID. So we do have kind of a multi-step ID resolution process that starts with matching those student IDs where we can find them in our higher ed data, and using fuzzy matching otherwise on name and date of birth and other identifiers. We also partner with our Motor Vehicle Commission. That relationship has kind of ebbed and flowed in what we're able to get, but it was in the legislation that passed a couple months ago that they kind of have to give us data. So that will be helpful to us to continue to expand the accuracy of the linkage across the data systems.
Great. Any others? I think what resonated with me about what you guys talked about is that, and what we've been talking about is kind of this work is kind of equal parts like vision and detail. Like we have to think big and dream big about the things we want and how we go about getting them. So thank you both for your leadership in this arena, and data beyond borders. We're pushing the borders, right? So Thank you so much for the work that you do on behalf of all of us and the support that we provide to you as well. So it's community. So again, what I said earlier, connect, engage. I won't give you the quiz now, but I'll be listening in the convening for those questions that I said earlier. And I think that concludes us for the day. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
And thank you.